Hello, what's good, everybody? Japing here checking in, respectmyregion.com. Good morning, good morning. We've got Mitch Pfeifer here on the third edition of the Morning Joint, where we cover breaking news, curated news, trending news in the world of music, cannabis, as well as the emerging market report. Today, we are back with Mitch Pfeifer, filling in for Hannah, our head editor. Big shout out to Hannah for everything she's done to help produce this episode. All the topics curated by our editor. So big shout out to Hannah. Mitch, how's the day going? Happy Monday.
It's going all right. You know, a little crust in the eye, as I always proclaim. I'm not a morning person, but we're here on the Morning Joint, man. So we're going to talk some news and some hot topics.
Man, we here on the Morning Joint, and I'm smoking a fire Jeter, man. It's infused with liquid diamond. It's the Blueberry Kush Jeter. So first thing, I'm going to get you popped off to the back, and I'm going to jump in. Today, I'm going to be covering some topics in Colorado. I'm going to talk about some jobs in the cannabis industry. You're going to dive into some really, really interesting news about the emerging markets, such as Texas, Wisconsin, some psychedelic updates also in Texas. And then also as well, I've got a couple great updates in the world of music. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Let's rock it. Here we go. All right, you guys. Up first, I'm going to start in the world of music. There are 11 EDM festivals that are absolutely fire, in our opinion, for 2022. So I definitely recommend you guys tap into each of these festivals that I mentioned here first. Electric Wave, Indianapolis, Indiana, February 4th and 5th. Huge EDM. You guys can enter to win tickets over on our website, respectmyregion.com. Articles right there for you guys. Illfest in Austin, Texas, February 18th through 19th. Body Language, Chandler, Arizona, March 4th through 6th. There's more giveaways there. Get Lucky in Utah. Salt Lake City is lit with Get Lucky every year, March 11th, March 12th. This is what their St. Patrick's Day festival. Super dope experience there. Single day and 2-day available. Seattle Hard Fest is hitting the Pacific Northwest again. Make sure you all tap in. They're known for festivals in Southern California, Hawaii, Colorado, even Australia. Trap, house, dubstep, future bass is going to be huge. One of my favorite artists, Keizo and Wax Motive on the lineup. Big shout out for that. I believe it's at the Tacoma Dome. Shout out to the T-Dome, man. Shout out to the T-Dome. All right. Up next, we've got Ultra Music Festival in Miami, Florida, March 25th through 27th. This is the largest, if not one of the largest in the entire world. So definitely tap in. I think this is Ubby Dubby or Ooby Dooby. I don't know. Disco Donnie presents Ooby Dooby Festival in Ennis, Texas. So this one's super dope. Texas goes extremely hard. Project Glow, Washington, D.C. Extra lit. Been covering that one for a couple years. Forbidden Kingdom in Orlando, Florida, May 6th through 7th. Excision, Death Pack, Subtronics. Let's go. What a lineup, man. Barely Alive, Riot 10. That's going to be real heavy. You can't forget about Unts Festival in Browns Valley, California. I live in Cali. I never heard of Browns Valley. Interested in going. Now, one of the festivals that's on my bucket list is Electric Forest, a.k.a. E-Forest, in Rothbury, Michigan. The reason being, artists like Dom Dalla, Louis the Child, Chloe Z, Porter Robinson, Disclosure. There's jam bands, there's pop, there's EDM, there's hip-hop. It's a diverse music festival. And Michigan goes hard. I've always wanted to go to Electric Forest. So yeah, those are some quick, just 11 EDM festivals going on in 2022. Keep them on your radar. Tap in, get your tickets. Don't sleep. Let's see. We're going to jump right over here to more EDM. We've got Thunder Beats Music Festival. Recently dropped their first Phase 1 lineup. Again, Thunder Beats Music Festival debuts their Phase 1 lineup. It's a Gulf Coast event. Headliners include Marshmello, Cascade, Deadmau5, Dylan Francis, R.L. Grime, and Steve Aoki as special guest. It's going to be lit. It's going to be so lit. All right, what else we got? In other news, Hip Hop 50 Cent announces that his next studio album is going to be his last. He's been putting out new music over here for the last, year or so. I heard some new tracks from 50. They were actually decent tracks too. Like the production was fire. His bars were not like annoyingly bad. There was some positive to the music that he's released. Now, I am a fan of 50 Cent in terms of his music. I'm a fan in terms of his brands that he's built. He's really interesting person. doesn't say some crazy ass shit. Kind of like sad that it's his last, but he's also old as shit, and so it's kind of dope that it's his last. Also, another big story in the world of hip hop. Pusha T sparks some good music departure rumors. Pusha T, I'd say in the last few years, most notably known for the beef with Drake. In my opinion, Pusha is one of the best rappers in the game. Is it all true and authentic? Is there some controversy to him? Maybe so, but most rappers aren't 100% with every single thing that they say, nor do they live it every single moment of every day. So his music, fire. Interesting to hear that he's leaving, potentially, leaving good music in Kanye. But with Kanye just being so crazy, that's just kind of how it goes, man. I got respect for Kanye, but I'm not a fan of Kanye. Those are different things. Now, I do have a really good story that I want to bring up for you guys. Let me go ahead and pull it up real quick. It's the richest rappers right now list that we made. So give me one sec. Richest rappers. Let me pull this up for you guys. So this one's really interesting. This is a list of the 10 of the richest rappers right now. Coming in hot at number 10. Lil Wayne with $150 million net worth. CEO and owner of Young Money Entertainment. Young Money, let's go. He helped launch the careers of Nicki Minaj, Drake, DJ Khaled, got all kinds of great brands. Private skate park in Miami. A lot of really, really good stuff, man. Number 9, Ice Cube with $160 million net worth. Drake with $180 million net worth. Number 8. Number 7, Master P, $200 million. Number 6, Ty, $200 million. Pharrell. Number 5, Eminem, $230 million net worth. Wow. Dr. Dre at number 3. Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Dre at number 4, $780 million net worth. Wow. In 2018, Dr. Dre was the second richest in hip hop with an estimated net worth of $800 million. Since then, other rappers have climbed into the list. Number 3, Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, at $900 million net worth. Talent director at Uptown Records before founding Bad Boy Records in 1993. Throughout the record label, Combs cultivated artists such as the Notorious B.I.G., Usher, as well as I think Machine Gun Kelly was signed to him or is still signed. I'm not sure how that works. Jay-Z at number 2, $1.4 billion net worth. Wow. CEO of Def Jam, brought along Kanye, Rihanna, J. Cole, introduced us to so many artists. Most recent venture in the world of cannabis being Monogram. They got a dispensary now. It's just very good. And then, oh man, Kanye West at number 1, $6.6 billion net worth. It's just so interesting. Though born in Atlanta, he was raised in Chicago, gaining recognition as a producer for Rockefeller Records. In 2004, Ye released his solo debut album, The College Dropout, successfully selling 441,000 copies in its first week of sales. He's also responsible for other successful albums, including The Life of Pablo and Donda. Donda 2 is in the works. But he makes the majority of his money from Yeezy, Ye's footwear and apparel brand. So the company's revenue reached $1.3 billion in 2020, and it's estimated that Ye pocketed about 11%, meaning his most recent earnings from the company would be around $143 million. It's pretty crazy, man. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, there's a ton of rich rappers out there, but between number 4 and number 5, it's a huge drop. It's a huge motherfucking difference between Puff Daddy and Dr. Dre, $120 million difference between number 3 and 4, and over $550 million between Eminem and Dr. Dre. So while we think Eminem and Drake and all these young rappers, the Migos with all their chains and jewelry and shit, none of them coming close to $6.6 billion if you're fucking Kanye West, or $1.4 billion if you're Jay-Z. So I think it just goes without saying that if you build brands, if you create products and you get it in front of your massive following, some really cool stuff can happen. For me, that's all I have for you guys today. Oh, no, I got one more story. Oh, almost got me. Cannabis, the new cannabis industry rules for Colorado. this article first, we discovered this on the Denver channel. So big shout out to the Denver channel for, covering the cannabis industry. The new year is returning a new leaf for the cannabis industry with a controversial law making a number of changes when it comes to high potency THC cannabis products like concentrates. And this is specifically for Colorado. Passed last year, HB 21-1317 created a scientific review council to examine the effects of high potency THC on the developing brain and mental health. It also changed the daily concentrate limit for medical patients from 40 grams a day to 8. Wow. Which aligns with the customer allowance on the recreational side. Here's a quote. I do feel like it's unfair for the people who are using concentrates because they're using something that was provided by the state that they said was legal. And now they're trying to dial back on how much you can purchase, said Rashad Parks, the general manager at Denver Kush Club. Patients between the ages of 18 and 20 are capped at 2 grams of concentrates a day. All licensees that operate in the cannabis industry must track their transactions to ensure customers not exceeding their daily limit. This is huge because, Colorado had a really crazy story, 5 years ago. So, about looping. And so I'm sure they're really, really on people being able to overconsume or buy more than they're allowed. Here's another quote. There may be patients based on their medical diagnosis who have difficulty accessing transportation or other mobility concerns that would restrict their ability to access marijuana consistent with their physician's recommendations. So that's where this is an opportunity for a patient in consultation with their physician to determine whether they fall within a scenario that should warrant an exception to those. The 8 and 2 gram sales limitation, said Dominique Mendiola, the senior director for the Department of Revenue's Marijuana Enforcement Division. Say that 3 times fast. In addition, all dispensaries must now provide customers with an educational pamphlet about THC concentrates when they are purchased. The pamphlet shows a suggested serving size for using the concentrate. So every time you buy some dabs, every time you buy some concentrate, they're going to stick a pamphlet in your hand. Jesus. Autumn Brooks uses cannabis-based medicine for her fibromyalgia and called concentrates a staple for patients. During a flare, I could possibly use 5 to 8 grams in a day. And this has killed that because I cannot go anywhere to purchase, and I can't afford the gas of being close to 4 a gallon right now to travel every day to pick up the medication. Those with the meds said the tax rates are still different between medical and recreational dispensaries. They said medical patients pay 2.9% sales tax, and retail customers pay a 15% special sales tax. Colorado, what are you guys doing over there with your legislation? This is crazy. I mean, I can understand some of it, but definitely not at all, man. Like, we definitely need the people of Colorado to speak up and kind of like help dial that back in for sure. It's just not doing it. Now, the last story that I'm going to cover, just real quick, cannabis industry jobs that pay well. So this story first appeared here on cannabislifenetwork.com. Make sure you guys head over there to check it out. 8 careers really quick. These careers pay well in the cannabis industry. All right. So the first is a master extractor. If you learn the science, if you learn the ins and outs of how to produce all the different types of concentrates and do it at a high level, become a master extractor. Let's see, 45,000 to 100,000 per year. Those with a PhD and years of experience can get up to $250,000. Extraction technician. These assist the master extractors. Usually earn between $27K and $43K per year. Master growers, again, based on experience and things of that nature, need to plant, clone, crop, and pest management. Between 50 and 150K is really where that's kind of sitting. Trimmer, harvester, or cultivator, 17K to 41K. I mean, if you're really just assisting the big dogs, you shouldn't be making big dog money. So, trimming, harvesting, cultivating, things like that, just part of the cultivation team. It's a whole different situation. Marketing directors, 71K to 200K per year. Marketing directors develop, launch, help execute brand vision, marketing assets, collaterals, partnerships, collaborations with stores, collaborations with brands, etc., events, the whole nine. Production manager, long-term planning and goal setting for cultivation, for extraction facilities, etc. It's usually about 65K or more a year to help really run the business and the brand from a production manager standpoint. Accounting in cannabis is very important. 44 racks to 120 racks a year, 1,000. Again, just some really good jobs. If you go to college and you don't like, you don't want to go into some boring ass career, accounting in cannabis is got to be better than accounting in for a tire company. You know what I mean? This is just got to be more enjoyable, like at the end of the day. And then last but not least, our team, Respect My Region, we are full of writers. We are full of content creators. So writers can create articles for blogs, magazines, websites, you name it. You can make as little as, a couple $100 a month, all the way to a couple thousand, or potentially even $100,000+ per year. So just again, some really good quality cannabis jobs. If you guys need any information on those things, if you're trying to reach out and connect with brands or businesses that are looking for that kind of stuff, I recommend, just hitting us up. We can point you in the right direction, make some introductions. This was the first half of the morning joint. Up next, we've got Mitch Pfeifer coming back in hot. I'm going to go ahead and tune myself out. Mitch is lighting 3 joints at the same time.
Oh, I thought this was the morning joint. Sorry.
Yeah, that was the morning joints right there. I like that. All right, brother, you're up. Emerging market. Let us know what's going on in the world of cannabis and psychedelics across the country and even the world a little bit. I'm going to check myself out. All right, y'all.
Thanks for sliding it over, Joey. I'm Mitch Pfeifer here with the Emerging Market Report for the morning joint on this Monday morning. So today we're looking at cannabis outside of the traditional recreational and existing existing recreational medical markets to look at these emerging markets. First up, we have Thailand is the first country to move to decriminalize cannabis in Asia. And I think this is something that's been coming for a while. I have some friends that from the States that live over in Thailand. No, I'm a big proponent of cannabis. They may or may not, back in the day when they were going to college, dealt with me for cannabis. So they think of me when they think of cannabis. They had reached out and showed me a couple touring a grow and looking at some of the medical facilities a while ago. So I was under the impression that this program was already being pushed forward. Maybe it was to some extent, but they're looking, or I guess medical is probably being pushed forward, but now they're looking to decriminalize it. So with this proposed decriminalization of cannabis in Thailand, there is still a gray area around recreational use. People are still not sure what exactly that's going to mean for that. But they are dropping cannabis from the ministry's list of controlled drugs, and that is cannabis that will pertain to both THC/cannabis as well as hemp CBD. Let's see. Police and lawyer. Okay, so it's proposed right now. It still has to pass. Where was it at? It still has to pass. What? Where are my notes? Yes, so a tangle of related laws mean production and possession of marijuana remains regulated for the time being, leaving the status of recreational marijuana use in a gray area. The measure retains on its list controlled drug parts from the cannabis plant that contain more than 0.2% weight of THC. Thailand in 2020 became the first Asian nation to criminalize the production and use of marijuana for medical purposes. So that's why it's pertaining. That drives some clarity pertaining to what I was previously aware of. Under the changes in 2020, most of the parts of the cannabis plant were dropped from Category 5 list of controlled drugs, but seeds and buds associated with recreational use were retained. And so now the proposal is being implemented by the FDA to remove all parts of the plant for the list. So it's got to go pass through some more legislation, and then it enters this 120-day window, I believe, to become legalized. But Thailand's making some moves to decriminalize cannabis over there in Asia. I know some of those countries from some people that live over there and travel over there. Some of these substances or cannabis are very easy to get, very lax in certain areas. But this is great to see, more people decriminalize. Even if you're not legalizing it for medicinal purposes and decriminalizing, those are great first steps. We can applaud all these people that want to move slow. Next up, Wisconsin lawmakers are in a fight to legalize medical marijuana. And so what is it? Medical marijuana. So there's a bill proposed right now to the state commission that would regulate medical marijuana. Physicians would earn a commission certification, would be allowed to prescribe marijuana in liquid or oil form, dissolved in alcohol, or in a form applied to the skin. Inhalants would not be allowed. Medical marijuana wholesalers would be subject to a 10% excise tax. So great for you, Wisconsin, for legalizing it, but that's really weird. So it looks like liquid or oil form. So I I guess, would that be? I'm assuming that'd be like tinctures, RSO. So it's great. Those are some of the products that have the most medical uses or applications, and have really provided people a lot of relief for very serious ailments. And so it's great to see that. Although, as anyone that's just pro cannabis, pro legalization, we'd like to see that a little bit deeper, a little bit wider in terms of what's on there. But we're still, moving in that direction. It's great. Wisconsin is also one of those places. There's a lot of hemp grown in Wisconsin, if people out there do not know. So Wisconsin is one of those areas that might potentially be a big Appalachian area for cannabis here as we move towards federal legalization. Clearly, with what they're proposing for their potential medical market, means they're quite a ways away from us seeing cannabis as a plant grown in Wisconsin and sold as flower. But it's a big farm area. I know they're growing hemp out there in very large, multi-acre facilities. So, and doing extraction. So I know there's some technology and some know-how with growing. So Wisconsin is definitely going to be an asset towards cannabis legalization from a farming and cultivation standpoint, I believe, once we see regulation. But for right now, we're potentially going to see a very small medical program, which salute to them, but y'all got some more work to do. Next up, no surprise, COVID-19 supply chain crunch impacts the cannabis industry. I'm sure anyone in the industry is aware of this. Some of you may have been banging your head against the wall, slamming a phone up against your ear, checking up on the orders of your shipments. Are they sitting on a ship shortly off the harbor, or is it not making it over? One of the surprising things, I know packaging has been delayed and difficult, but one of the surprising things I believe is the pre-roll cone has been backed up and very difficult to get a hold of. There's a stranglehold on the supply of that, but also components for vape cartridges and vaporizers in general. You probably heard about the microchip shortage out there, but there's also the components that go into the individual parts, because usually if you're buying a vape cartridge from a factory, not more often than not, a lot of the different components for that vape cartridge are also made at other factories that just make those components. And so there is just little fallouts, gaps, holes, and bottlenecks all over the supply chain. So getting that stuff stateside is definitely taking forever, which drives the cost up. If you got to produce things locally or stateside rather than overseas, you're going to pay a significant cost structure. But also, if you also have a process created with someone, it's way easier. There's no setup fees. The lead time, people are losing a lot of time and money trying to scramble to redo their packaging, redesign what they have, slow down their offering. They're unable to meet sales demand. And you couple that in with, entering into Chinese New Year, which is also a traditional slow time for things to be shipped overseas or back over the pond. We're seeing a big supply chain bottleneck right now. I'm not sure what anyone else is seeing out there. Let us know in the comments if you're dealing with these issues. What are you seeing? What if you maybe are a solution of them? Go ahead and plug that in the comments. Let the people know that you can solve some of these holes and gaps that they might be facing. But yeah, supply chain, that's a global thing that's affecting everyone, especially the cannabis industry. Okay, on to the next topic. Austin voters to decide on marijuana decriminalization method. Man, off of the last, basing my information on the last few times I'm in Austin, you could have fooled me that cannabis wasn't already decriminalized in Austin. I spend a fair amount of time in Texas for some family or some music, mainly around the Houston area, and also go out to Austin quite pre-COVID quite often. Texas is one of those places where I am very cautious, just driving around. If I have a jar of cannabis in the car or have consumed at some point earlier in the day and might potentially still have a hint of it on myself, but I'm still good to drive. But, hours later and drive is one of the few places I'm still very cautious. I live in the Seattle area, spend a lot of time in the LA area. On the West Coast, we blow wherever we so choose. It is not that big of a deal. More often than not, if a police officer stops you in downtown Seattle or LA, or even sees you rolling up in broad daylight in the middle of a public park or something downtown, the cop will usually say, take that shit around the corner. I believe in Seattle, you can get a $15 ticket for smoking in public. I've never gotten one or received one. I usually am just told to take it up the block, if I'm even acknowledged at all. But Texas, on the other hand, is one of those areas where you've got to be very cautious. Yeah, you've got to be very cautious down there for numerous reasons. But Austin is very, very liberal and has been very accepting to the plant. If you walk down to Austin outside of the bars, it's not uncommon to smell the hint of some cannabis in the air, and it's definitely one of the places in Texas that you feel like would be on the pushing cannabis more so than in the other areas. But anyways, Austin City Council approved the measure known as the Austin Freedom Act for the ballot by a vote of 7-3 on January 18th. This is a ballot that will, decriminalize cannabis. Let's see. It will bar Austin police officers from arresting or ticketing people for minor marijuana-related offenses, including possession of small amounts of cannabis or marijuana paraphernalia, unless the suspect is also accused of a more serious crime. So, if you are holding up a store at gunpoint and have weed on you, you might catch a weed charge. But if you just have weed on you and are not holding up a store, there's likely going to be no charge. So, you got to think smart. If you got cannabis on you, don't go commit other felonies, man. It's only going to multiply from there. Additionally, the proposal would prohibit law enforcement officers from performing no-knock warrants. So that's something else that's getting on the ballot that I guess isn't necessarily cannabis permitted, which is also great because we've seen the downside of that, but that's something we can get into elsewhere. The city would also not be permitted to pay for scientific testing of substances suspected to be marijuana, making prosecution for a cannabis crime difficult, if not impossible. So if you get caught, as someone said, the biggest criminal rule, do not commit more than one crime at a time. Yes, you got to pace yourself. Pace yourself. But please don't commit crimes. So anyways, back to this. So the city will not allow things to be tested if it's suspected to be marijuana. So that's very unclear. The way I read that, if I get caught with maybe a California bag that has a warning symbol on it of cannabis, that technically doesn't need to be tested. That's proven as cannabis. But if I take the cannabis out of the packaging and put it in a Ziploc, it may or may not be cannabis. It can no longer be tested. I'm a little unclear on that, but that's, Legalize usually does that to one another. It can be interpreted, 30,000 different ways. But that's nice because if you get caught with cannabis, I guess maybe if you take the Pop Brothers at Law advice and shut the fuck up and don't say what it is, they ask what it is and say, I don't know. And they have no proof, they have your word on record that it is cannabis, they can't go test it to prove that it is cannabis. So that sounds unique. I need a little bit more context for that. But let's look a little bit more on this. So last month, activists working within the group submitted a petition with over 30,000 signatures to the Austin clerk's office. That's it, man. You got way more smokers than 30K out there. That's 10,000 signatures more than the required number to qualify for the measure on the May ballot. The city the city council's vote to schedule an election on the Austin Freedom Act is a testament to the incredible work of our organizers and volunteers who are fighting for progressive change in their community. That's awesome, man. So Austin cops would rather arrest people. What's that mean? So the Austin law enforcement community is against the notion of decriminalizing cannabis when the city council voted to stop funding marijuana lab testing and asked police to stop arresting and issuing tickets for misdemeanor pot charges in 2020. So that's a little confusing. So they're voting to decriminalize it, but it sounds like they already kind of decriminalized it, but whatever. Incremental steps. The police officers union is also against the policy change and declined to support the ballot measure. We don't support it because we feel like you should follow state law. But the thing is, if it makes people in Austin happy, so be it. So they're like, basically, we don't want any special laws for our city that aren't to our state, state pride. It doesn't make sense for someone from Texas, but they also stated, if it makes the people of Austin happy, so be it. So that's kind of a little bit of support there, but it's funny the way they worded the first thing, that they did not support this. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I guess I know why, but me personally, my mindset, I don't get why police would not want to decriminalize cannabis. Just looking at all the studies, all the paperwork they have to do. And when you really look at it, are people really doing something negative? Is it really that? I mean, for real, there's a lot of bad things going on right now, and you really want to tie up your time over cannabis in the 2020s, man. Come on, Austin Police Department, let's get it together. The next topic, we're going back to Texas for psychedelics. So Texas further embraces psychedelics with the launch of Center for Psychedelic Research and Therapy. This article is on Benzinga. Research will focus on how various psychedelics can be used under proper supervision and guidance to treat severe depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And then they pose the question, is Texas poised to become a hub for psychedelic research? 6 months after Governor Greg Abbott signed a bill that requires the state to study the risk and benefits of psychedelics, MDMA, and ketamine for veterans, they announced the launch of the Center of Psychedelic Research and Therapy, the first center of its kind in Texas. So looking at our topics from last week's Morning Joint and just the continually news headlines that are rolling out over these last few years, psychedelics are making headway, and it's usually in the vein of severe, not just depression, but severe depression, anxiety, and PTSD, which are very, very serious things that are affecting a lot of individuals in this country. So we are seeing a lot of people, a lot of states, and a lot of studies start to back the research of this. And we're also starting to see some drugs, pharmaceutical drugs roll out in further testing, phases of testing to treat these mental disorders, which is something that's just really plaguing us, and there's not a lot of answers. The existing pharmaceutical industry is clearly profiting off the failure of this. I mean, we could take that political or not, but it's just not working, and there's a lot of things that are plaguing people. COVID-19 in these last few years have just perpetually sped this up. There are just things running rampant through our population, and psychedelics pose a very, very huge potential benefit in working with some of these ailments. So really excited to see where some of these go. It's awesome to see states like Texas. We're just talking about very, very strict against cannabis, but we're starting to see them enter into this conversation. And I think it's awesome when you look at past just recreational cannabis, which I'd love to see nationally, but you look at medical cannabis, and then you look at what psychedelics can do in the medical community. There's just some amazing things that can happen from natural and alternative medicine out there, and it's really great to just see that pursued at a wider level, a wider spectrum. That's just not something that I'm accustomed to seeing in the U.S., but that is it for the emerging market report of news in these emerging cannabis and psychedelic markets. So I will let Joey come back on and take us away.
Yo, thank you, Mitch. That was very interesting. There's a lot of good stuff going on there in terms of, what Texas and some of these other states decriminalizing things and trying to pass on legislation. And so really appreciate you sharing that report and all the content this morning. Big shout out to our producer, Hannah Gershowitz, for curating the content today. Everybody, this was episode 3 of the Morning Joint. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Tune in every Monday. We definitely got started a little late today. That was my bad, so apologies if you were anxiously waiting our curated news. But we will definitely be doing this 8:30 to 9 every Monday. So subscribe, comment, talk that shit. We'll see you on next week's episode. Mitch, peace.